we've got a responsibility to look at things from a factual point of view and say, well, what will actually protect our children, our teachers, and make them safer. And some of the proposals that were coming down the pike were really more politically motivated. And so we looked at, I talked to sheriffs in our district, law enforcement agents, and across the board, not just in North Carolina, but we've had a number of folks that we've talked to and reached out. And they feel like that if we put armed police officers, resource officers in the school, not only do we make them safer, but it also provides a vehicle for making sure that they look at procedures that perhaps are not being followed, doors that are not being locked, and so forth. We've toured several homes and have found, several schools, and we found that as we did that, there was a greater awareness because of the tragedy that happened. So we're all in favor of working with local law enforcement officers to protect our students. And in speaking of these law enforcement officers, have they showed that they'd be supportive of even teachers being armed with, obviously, with proper licensing? Some of them. That's not across the board. One of the things, and that's really why we introduced the piece of legislation we did, was to work with law enforcement. Some of their challenges is that split-second decision-making that has to be done with regards to somebody coming in. If you were coming in with a gun, or a camera, or a camera, or whatever the case may be, having to make those split-second decisions, and even for me, I'm a marksman. Knowing when to pull the trigger and when not to pull the trigger, it's something that training actually provides a real strong role in making good, wise decisions, so that we don't inflict more harm on innocent people. And so, with that, they feel like that having law enforcement officers make those decisions is probably a better place for that, whether it's working with principals and teachers or whether it's actually putting some of personnel in the schools. But you in particular, would you be in favor if there's teachers that were armed in school, obviously with the proper licensing and being able to carry? Here's the thing: is certainly when I see that, I feel like that we have a right to do that. I mean, obviously, as we want to make sure that we're protected. One of the dangers that we have, even with me being here on Capitol Hill, if I had the ability to carry it from my apartment here to the office, I would be doing that, just because the danger is not necessarily here, but it's on my way to the office in the morning, and yet because of the Washington, D.C. gun laws, I'm restricted from doing that. But gun laws in themselves don't make us safer. I'll give you a prime example here in Washington, D.C., which has some of the toughest gun laws in the country. We had more homicides within the first week of me moving here than I have in the last 10 years back home in North Carolina. So gun laws don't necessarily translate into safety, and so that's what I think that we've got to recognize. We had our people go out and do research and said, okay, is there a direct correlation? Well, most of the gun violence in schools that have happened today have not happened really by violating a law. When we look at Sandy Hook, I mean, it was guns that were borrowed or stolen from a family member, and yet there were some gun laws that were already violated there. But we've got to look at it really from a facts point of view and say what really will protect our students and our children and our family members. And if we look at that, we'll make better laws. Because here's the thing: is we had our folks do research. We found that most gun-related violence happened with a .22 caliber pistol, revolver. So we're not even talking about the high magazine clips, the high-capacity magazine clips, or assault weapons. And to pass legislation thinking that is going to make our schools safer is a misnomer, and it's really not responsible governing. We can pound our chest and say, look, we've passed it, but if we're not making our schools safer, then we've done a disservice instead of a service to our constituents